Hey guys, what is up? Noelle with Baker's Backyard Bounty. Today I wanted to just share with you guys some, I'm calling this video the gateway drugs to gardening, but really it's just more of a broken down, like, what is easiest to start with when you want to begin gardening. I know it can feel really overwhelming, like the Google is just kind of like this huge vast array of knowledge. One person will tell you to plant this with this, the other person will tell you don't plant this with this. So I know it can feel overwhelming. So I kind of want to share with you guys just my experience of easing into gardening and kind of making, I guess, growing yourself into a gardener over time with these steps that can make you feel successful. I think what happens is sometimes we decide we want to get into gardening and go out and buy all of the seeds and all of the things, and then when something doesn't grow, get discouraged and say like, forget about it, I wasted a lot of money on that. And so I hope that for you guys this video is helpful in just creating those stepping stones. Before we jump into that, this will be a shorter video, but before we jump into that, I just want to make a little announcement. Down in the description, I have a link to my affiliate account for Botanical Interest. There are a ton of seed companies. A lot of them do these affiliate programs where you use this link and I get a small commission at no cost to you just on what you order from the company. So again, there's a lot of seed companies, but I really tried to pinpoint the ones that I have used and have had success with, because I just think that that is the thing to do to keep integrity. And so Botanical Interest is one of the first seed companies that I ever used, and I love them because they are big on education. And what I mean by that, I have this little seed packet here. This is basil, and you can see on the front it has just a basic overview of the plant. It's an heirloom variety. On the back, it has growing conditions, it has sunlight needs, how to thin, how to space them out, and special sowing instructions. Some seed companies, when I order from them, they really don't have a ton of information. So what I have to do is Google about the plant to kind of fill in the gaps. When it would be so nice if it were just on the back of the seed packet. When I'm out in my garden, I know what to do. I don't have to pull it up on my phone to see how far I need to space them or how much sun they need. They go even a step further, and I actually have seeds in here, so I don't want to spill them out, but the inside of the package is filled with more information, like what family it comes from, the hardiness zones, where it's natively found. I think that's really cool. If you want to use fertilizer, sun exposure, companion planting, all of that excess information is on the inside of the packet. So anyways, use the affiliate link below if you want to get some seeds. Botanical Interest is a very reputable company, and again, they give you a lot of information, and for a first-time gardener, that is like really important if you want to be successful, is knowing how to do it, right? So it's actually sundown here. It's about to get dark, and we've had rain all day long, all day yesterday as well. So everything is kind of like sopping wet. I also want to mention I feel like a very real YouTuber now because I finally bought a tripod for my cell phone. And I know that's like beginner status, but it feels good. I feel official. All right, what we have over here is the pollinator garden and the intro to the herb garden. It continues out that way a little bit, and I'll show you guys more of that. But these are the two gardens that I started with in terms of establishing specific gardens that had an intention or a purpose in my yard. So this was built last spring. Reed put this bed in, and immediately I knew I wanted to do a pollinator garden because veggies, fruits, they will not grow without the pollinators. A lot of times we think flowers are just, they're frilly or they're excess, and no, they're actually vital and essential to feeding the pollinators that then feed us. So anytime you have a veggie garden or you want to eat from your garden, put some flowers in, for goodness sake. Those bees and hummingbirds and butterflies, even the wasps, they love, I know that's like not a huge selling point to have wasps, but they are pollinators too, so we can't exclude them. They will love that and be attracted to your space. So pollinator plants, you can go to the nursery and just say like, hey, I'm trying to start a butterfly garden. That's what I did my first year. What can you help me out with? Typically down here, I'm in zone 8A. What really grows well, this plant here is called Greg's Mist. I know it has a few other names. but what it has are these like fluffy looking purple flowers, and these actually turn into little wispies. So this is pretty compact, but they'll get more and more fluffy over time, just like the plant is pretty fluffy. I planted that from a transplant last year, cut it down to the ground. We had a big snow, it overwintered, and it came back super strong. So with a lot of these plants, you only have to put them in once, which is really good for being cost efficient, because you don't want to spend a ton of money if you don't know what's really going to work with your soil, with your area. That doesn't make sense. So these are going to stay for a long time, come back year after year, and I only had to purchase them once. Okay, so that's Greg's Mist. The other one down there, that red one, is cranberry salvia. Any kind of salvia is really good for pollinators. It smells really sweet. So that's kind of what I do when I go to the nursery, is I just like do a smell test. Run my fingers through it. If it has a sweet smell, probably is going to attract some pollinators. If it has bright colors, probably going to attract some pollinators, because that's what they look for. So those are two just like quick and dirty tips for trying to find pollinator plants. I'm going to go grab some salvia and show you guys. I wish you could smell it. Okay, so see? This is also called, there's a variety called like hot lips that I've seen. That's bright red and sometimes has white on it. But there's tons of colors of salvia, and it smells really, really sweet. So I like this one because it does have like a sweet cranberry smell. And this was really the first thing to bloom in my garden. All right, the other one I want to show you is, it's often frequently found down here in the south, but for pollinator gardens this is like a classic, and it is lantana, and it also comes in a lot of really beautiful colors. This is the last to come up. So I've mentioned it previously in a video, my mom ripped all her lantana out because she thought it wasn't going to come back after the winter, and lo and behold, my lantana started cropping up the week after. So it takes a little while longer than the others, but this is, oh, can you see? I'm trying to get it to focus. This is the lantana, and it comes in reds and pinks, lots of really beautiful bright colors that pollinators love. Mine is just yellow. And it will take over. It spreads out, it gets really, really big. And finally, this is my all-time favorite. Again, I got this last year at a plant nursery, and it overwintered beautifully, and actually it is 3 times as big as it was last year. So that's encouraging that our soil's okay, I suppose. This is black and blue salvia. Let me find one. I'll stick these in a little bouquet. I mean, look at that coloring, y'all. Gorgeous. And this smells really, really sweet. Kind of like a berry sweetness. So yeah, this is my all-time fave. So what happens is these seas of color just continue to blossom, and we get a ton of monarchs. We've gotten a few hummingbirds. So this year, since the plants are already at least doubled in size since last year, I'm really excited to see all the wildlife that comes, which is really fun for my kids too. They love to come and watch the butterflies. All right, down here, let me adjust my fancy YouTube tripod, is the herb garden. Herbs are a beautiful place to start because they're pretty easy to grow and pretty easy to find. So what I would suggest is maybe even starting off with like transplants instead of starting them from seed. I tend to have a little bit of trouble starting like basil from seed or dill. I've had difficulties with both of those before. Now I've kind of got the game plan down, but I mean, plants are cheap enough at a nursery that it's easy and accessible. This here was just a regular oregano plant. It was probably that big when I bought it, and it's exploded. I also have thyme. So these Italian herbs tend to be what we call like Mediterranean herbs, and it's really easy to love on them too hard. I've definitely been guilty of that, like watering them too much. They need really good drainage, and they actually don't need a ton of water. They don't like super wet feet or roots, and so they're pretty low maintenance, all that to say. Oregano, thyme, these are really easy to throw in any kind of pasta, to put on like garlic bread, to add to soups. So we grow a lot of that because we love Italian food. This here is lavender. I don't think you can see, but it has a really short, this variety has like short leaves and then really tall stems. Like this is as tall as the stems get. And so it looks a little bit just funny, like it's very, very tall. But lavender you can bake with, you can dry it out and put it in like a little sachet or a baggie and place it in like your drawers or your closet. I've done that before, just to have your linen smell really nice. And it's just calming to come out and just rub your hands through the lavender as you walk through your garden. So I like growing quite a bit of lavender for that reason. Over here we have mint, and mint, the rule of thumb is to not put it in your garden bed because it really explodes. It can take over. We harvest this almost daily for tea, so it hasn't taken over quite yet, and I'm interested to see how it goes. But mint grows with these runners, so like here's the main plant, and over here a new plant is cropping up, a runner. Gosh, I wish you guys could smell this. But mint is really easy to grow. So maybe start with it in a container if you feel like you're not going to harvest it that much, but we've been okay having it in the ground. Mint is really good for tea. I add this to a blueberry smoothie. It has like almond milk, blueberries, mint. That always tastes really good to me. And then finally over here, oh, I have some chocolate mint. We put that mainly in milkshakes with vanilla ice cream and chocolate, dark chocolate pieces. And I just use an immersion blender with that. It tastes amazing. And then finally I have lemon balm. Lemon balm, the leaves are more wide and flat. This is mint, you can kind of tell the difference, but with lemon balm you can make teas out of it. It's great for anxiety, and one remedy that I'm wanting to try is to actually like boil the leaves down, just a pot of leaves with some water, cover it with water, boil it down, and then add that to honey to add to teas for digestion and also for just relaxation and calm. It's so good for anxiety. And I got that idea from Roots and Refuge. She has a video about it. It's called Honey Medicine, so that would be something to check out, and I'll let you know how mine goes when I make it. But lemon balm, it smells like lemon. It's delicious. So really, pollinator garden, herb garden, all of those can be translated into a container garden or a windowsill. So really they're accessible. That's what I like. You don't have to have like tons of bags of soil or raised beds or a designated garden area. So that's a place to start. And finally, before we lose all the light, I wanted to talk about starter vegetables. I will say, like, going out and buying a bunch of onions or garlic or potatoes, while those might be staple crops, I necessarily wouldn't start with those just because they require like fertilizing and quite a bit of maintenance. Like with the potatoes, you have to keep mounding dirt on them. I just started growing those things this year, and I've been gardening for quite a while, seriously gardening really this year, but I've learned a lot. For years, ever since I was in college, so that's like a while ago, maybe 10 years ago, I started growing tomatoes. Tomatoes are really easy to grow. What I would suggest for your first time is maybe doing like a determinate, meaning like it has a set amount of fruit. It doesn't just like grow and grow and grow and grow. A determinate variety in a pot. That is pretty low maintenance, pretty low cost. And you can just throw a tomato cage on there if you like. We do it a little bit different with the strings, having them trellis up, but we grow indeterminate types, meaning that they put off a lot of fruit. They just keep growing and growing and growing. But a determinate amount is really good for a container. Also, I've had more success with cherry tomatoes, so like smaller tomato varieties versus like trying to grow these big slicer heirloom tomatoes in a container. For obvious reasons, the cherry tomatoes are smaller and more prolific. So that would be a place to start. You can do that on your patio. Tomatoes. The second thing, cucumbers. I've grown cucumbers in these grow bags. The only deal with cucumbers is that they do vine, so you need something to trellis them on. I got 3 sticks, stuck it in my grow bag, tied some string at the top like a little teepee, and they grew beautifully up that. Cucumbers are pretty easy to grow, so that would be my second recommendation. And then finally, snap peas and beans. Pole snap peas and beans. I don't know if snap peas even come in bush variety. I'll have to look that up, but beans do. Pole varieties also need to be trellised, but they're very prolific. I've had much more success just starting out, not knowing really what I was doing, with pole beans. Kentucky Wonder pole bean, or it's also called Old Homestead bean. That one has worked really, really well for me and produced quite a few beans. Again, just growing them in a grow bag. So you can do that on your patio. Again, just make sure you have some system to trellis them on, and it can be as easy as just a little teepee of sticks. It doesn't have to be anything expensive or crazy. Okay, one more vegetable. Now, this one's a little bit controversial. Not everyone loves it, but here in the South, we are big fans. My daughter Lily can tear up some okra, y'all. Last year, she was just to turn 1, and our okra plants started growing, and we had no clue she liked it so much. So this year I'm growing about 3 times as much okra so I can feed my child. But why I love okra is it does really well in extreme heat. Ours didn't require a ton of water, and our soil was just really starting to get going. So whereas some of my pole beans or things like that wouldn't grow so well, the okra took off. So I think that it can grow in pretty new soil. It doesn't have to be like super rich quite yet. I did add a little bit of compost, but yeah, okra. The varieties we're growing this year are Jing Orange okra, Hill Country Red, and Clemson Spineless, which is just a classic green okra. So I would suggest, if you want to start it out, try the Clemson Spineless. It's really just like tried and true basic green okra. What you want to remember with that is that they get really tall, they take up quite a bit of space because the leaves are really big, but they have beautiful flowers. It's in the hibiscus family, so it puts off really beautiful hibiscus looking flowers before the pods start forming. One thing you want to keep in mind is there is a little bit more maintenance with okra. Like when it's really hot in the summer, you're going to have to be harvesting it pretty much every single day because the pods just grow like crazy. And if they get too big, then they will be too hard and tough to eat. It's not really edible. So you want to pick them when they're pretty young and still tender. But I will say, okra is a good one if you have a little bit of space and can do some in-ground gardening. I've never tried it in a container. I wouldn't really recommend growing it in a container. So if you're in an apartment or you just have like a patio space, maybe stick with the first 3 vegetables we talked about. All right, you guys, well, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. May you find the bounty in your own life and all the beauty that it holds. We'll see you soon, and just get started, get growing. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment below, and subscribe if you like more little gardening tips.